Hi everyone, Esper here. Today we'll be going through the recent PNA Revamp patch, released October 4th. We'll be going through what actually changed, how you should be setting up your PNA, and learning the mechanics for the new Gremory arcade dungeon. For starters, PNA is basically an auxiliary skill system that adds a bunch of passives to your characters. Think of it as basically free stats that are accessible to all characters on your account. Prior to the revamp, PNA was unlocked on a character basis. So now it's changed to an account-based system, so everything is immediately accessible to any character on your account, as long as it's been unlocked already. Unfortunately, one of the drawbacks is that you will only have a limited number of PNA pages to work with, 10 to be exact. However, it shouldn't be that bad, since most characters of the same damage type can still share pages. At the bare minimum, we want a physical, psi, and hybrid page. If you play Tina or Eri, you want separate pages for these two characters specifically as well. Since all PNA has been merged on your account, for offensive, defensive, utility, special strains, and amplifier, we should have access to max level genes as long as you've made and collected the jump character goodies. So in the offensive strain, we want to go percentage raw for array genes, physical psi penetration for combination genes, airstrike crit damage bonus for mutation genes. There is a small difference here for Tina and Eri. Tina, we want to use chase crit damage instead, whereas Eri wants back crit damage due to how their respective passives work. In the defensive strain, we run the same setup for everyone. Percentage HP for array genes, total fizz and psi defense for combination genes, and then percentage HP again for mutation genes. The utility strain is also the same setup for everyone. Movement speed for array genes, EMP state damage for combination and mutation genes. For a full FIB page, you can run FIB in array genes and mutation genes instead. For special strain, we have two strains that are mandatory. These are Weapon Affinity and Backstabber. The third strain to equip is ultimately up to personal preference. You have two options here. The first option is Fast Mover for additional attack speed. The second option is to run Aerialist for more air crit damage. For Tina, you want to run Paratrooper as she benefits from chase more. And for hybrid characters, you want to run Eagle Eye as you get more crit damage overall due to getting crit damage for both physical and psi damage. For Amplifier, the actual Amplifier PNA doesn't really matter that much, we just want to run the appropriate pattern. Combat wise, it's a toss up between attack speed or 5% damage dealt. I personally run attack speed. The FIB page simply runs 9 FIB credit bonus nodes as you'd expect. Lastly, we come to the newly released Awakening strain. This one will take some time to farm up as entries are limited to 3 per day per account. A rough estimate is about 3 to 4 weeks to max out one Awakening strain depending on your RNG. This is one of the two best places currently to use your PNA kits, the other I will cover later. For Awakening strain, my recommendation is to run any 3 blue strains to start out with, as blue strain has the strongest set bonus, seen here. After that, you focus on farming for green strains from Advanced Central Lab. Try to do very hard if you can, since there's no res limit, so you can muscle through even with lower TCP. The 2 green strains you want are Force Cancel and Jump. These are your BIS Awakening strains as they offer relatively strong buffs with high uptime. You can swap to a full green setup once Cancel and Jump at around level 10 or so. The last green strain doesn't really matter, we just want the set bonus until the last strain is leveled up. The last strain we want is Blue Jump, which requires running Bare Land instead. Once again, you can probably replace the random green strain with the Blue Jump strain once it is around level 10. The account revamp also includes the Mutant PNA system, which improves damage done to particular enemy types. All previous levels of Mutant grinded before the update has been aggregated, so no PNA EXP was actually lost. If you happen to have multiple characters that reach the level cap in the Mutant before the update, they will all be merged together. For example, I had around 15 characters with cap mutants before the update happened, and ended up with around all types at level 30. Additionally, all types of Mutant PNA damage are applied now, as opposed to previously where only one type of Mutant damage was active at a time. Selecting Mutant PNA in the interface now only determines which type is being leveled. For a new player, the recommendation is to reach level 20 Mutant on all damage types first. The priority would be something like Dragon, Wild, Irregular, Infernal, Machinery, Angelic, Insecten, Deep Sea, then Human. Hitting level 20 will give you 270% damage, but the damage gain beyond level 20 is extremely low, at 1% per level. One thing to note is that PNA EXP is now exclusive to Gremory dungeons, so basically all dungeons inside this portal. On the Mutant PNA page, we also have what are essentially PNA tuning slots now. These are unlocked as you accumulate mutant levels. This is the second place where you want to spend PNA kits, as there is currently no other way to reset the tuning attempts on these slots. For these slots, there are set stats that can be tuned. We just want to go through and tune for the combat stats. For the last row, these 3 slots have ABC damage type as the combat stat. These are honestly really trash, as the soft cap for this stat line is 100%, and recent gear basically caps this without any investment from your part. Damage during empowered state also suffers from a similar 100% stat cap, so these slots you can basically ignore and take whatever. Unfortunately, I didn't get to unlock the level 300 slots yet, but they have Total, Fizz, and Psi as their combat stats, so tune for these when you hit level 300. Now for the new Gremory dungeon, Arcade. This dungeon needs to be unlocked by doing a short quest in Planar Gate. It's a weekly dungeon and is now the only Gremory dungeon that is character based, rather than being limited per account. There is no resurrection limit, so the only limiting factor here is your own sanity. So for the mechanics, after about 10 seconds, she'll have a chance of starting up the first one. The stage will dim and split into 4 quadrants. Gremory will be invulnerable during this phase. The gimmick here is to find the quadrant with the adult Gremory. However, the easy trick here is actually just to look at the color of the quadrants. The correct quadrant is blue as opposed to red. At 60 bars, she'll initiate the whack-a-mole phase after finishing whatever attack she was doing. This is probably the most annoying phase in this fight. It's possible to skip this phase by bursting her below 39 bars before she starts up the mechanic. You can either sync up ults here, or save it for skipping the Pac-Man phase later. For this mechanic, multiple holes will be scattered across the stage whilst Gremory does a rotating laser attack. The laser itself is an iframe breaker, so you have to perfect dodge into it to avoid damage. You will also have a hammer spawn on top of you with a red AoE. This hammer is actually harmless to you, so don't worry about it and just concentrate on dodging the laser. The portals that will spawn Gremory clones will be indicated by some stars. After a short time, these starred portals will have Gremory clones jump out. You need to bring the hammer down on the Gremory clones without the bare head. Hitting a bare head Gremory causes it to explode and one-shot everyone in range. Hitting a normal Gremory clone will deal 4 bars of damage. We need to bring Gremory down to 39 bars to end this phase. So this phase can be super tedious if she transitioned at a bad time before you could land enough damage on her. At 39 bars, she'll go into the DDR phase. The stage will be split into 5 panels separated by an arrowed cross. The 5th panel is the little bear square directly underneath Gremory herself. This mechanic is much simpler. You need to finish off her remaining health whilst avoiding the danger panels. The danger panels will flash above her for a short moment before they explode. Simply move to a panel that is not flashing to avoid damage. Except for the bear square, the arrowed cross in the center does damage no matter what, so make sure you're actually standing inside a square. My recommendation is to stay inside the bear square for an easy DPS angle, and then move to a safe space if it lights up. After that, we enter the second part of the fight. It'll start with a fairly standard top-down downmarket phase. The one thing of note here is that coins will spawn randomly and can be picked up for a significant stat buff. At 70 bars, she'll go into the Pac-Man phase after completing her current attack pattern. If your team is lucky, you can have enough time to burst her down to 50 bars to trigger the final phase of the fight. This is the other part of the fight where you can consider syncing up ults to burst and skip a mechanic. It's less reliable than skipping Whack-A-Mole, as she moves around a lot more during the downmarket phase. For the Pac-Man phase, your team just has to collect all 100 stars in the maze. The current score can be seen on the top right. The time limit is generous enough for one person to collect every star, so there shouldn't be any issues. The incoming bear traffic can either be perfect dodged or iframed. The maze will telegraph where the bear is spawning with a Gremory portal. Once the maze is complete, Gremory will be stunned, and you just need to take her down to 50 bars to transition into the final phase of the fight. Gremory will dump your party on a different platform with a stick. During transition, and for the rest of this phase, you'll actually see the color relationship in the background here. This hints at what you should be doing during this phase. So the color relationship is red beats green, green beats blue, and blue beats red. Shortly after being teleported to the platform, 3 colored buttons will spawn, and the black bear will show a colored move. The mechanic is solved by basic attacking the corresponding counter button. Once the button is destroyed, our bear will launch a counterattack. If successful, the black bear is stunned, and the stick becomes vulnerable to attack. Of note is that if you're playing a character with a ranged basic attack like Tina, Eri, or Chu, you may need to pay attention to what direction you're facing, as you can hit 2 buttons at once with a ranged basic attack. Breaking the wrong button can inadvertently lead to extra time loss on this dungeon. Once the stick is vulnerable, burst it as hard as you can. If you can't kill the stick, the previous mechanic will repeat, and you need to press the correct color button once again. Once the stick is defeated, the battle is over. That's it for this update and the Gremory arcade dungeon. Like, comment, subscribe, and join the Nyane cult. Thanks for watching.